Welcome to Research Business Daily Report, where an avid viewer at SMR told us a few weeks ago that this is the place for market researchers to come to learn about important research situations and issues that exist outside the immediate research interests of their company. Today we share results of an exclusive survey that asked current college students about considering the research industry as a career option. RBDR is sponsored today and this week by Nuance, a decision analyst company offering multi-language verbatim coding services to quantify the meaning of open-ended answers. Nuance invites you to read tips for choosing a coding partner. Coding has gotten increasingly better, so it may be time for an update, which we have for you through a link that we'll share at the end of today's report. John Burshek of Burshek Research and Consulting just completed a survey of 5,000 currently enrolled college students, everywhere from Ivy Leaguers to attendees of small local higher education programs. He told us he needed one final question to complete his omnibus project, and RBDR asked him to pose a question about those students' interest and consideration in research or research-related areas for a career. There are encouraging signs that came out of this survey, but in addition, some sobering pre-survey analysis of the results. John, please provide the details.
We had, for market research alone, 23% said that they had ever considered a career in it. That's almost 1 out of 4. Data science was the other category that we asked, and 15% said that they had ever considered a career in it. And you and I both know how hot that category is. It's the new sexy thing on campus. And then, of course, the old standard, I guess a more traditional categorization as far as a degree out there in marketing, 37% said that they had ever considered a career in that. So when you look at the company that we're keeping, we are really, that's a very strong percentage, 1 out of 4 almost, that have ever considered a career in market research. So very encouraging if that's the way we want to look at that.
But the devil is in the details, and part of the follow-up work or the pre-survey work he did was to talk to the academics about the interest in market research, because they are teaching these students and they have a somewhat different perception of what's really going on.
They do. The devil is understanding how a person is as always with research, it's how a person is interpreting the question, what's their framework of that response. And the academics, the professors that are in charge of these students that are pushing them all the way through to the end would not have been surprised at the initial interest. There's a lot of interest that they're seeing, but it's in the definition of what market research is. And there's 2 factors that they came back with as an explanation as what is impacting our industry. And market research is seen as sexy because of social analytics, because of Facebook, because of everything that is happening within that field.
So their pure definition of market research, the students I'm speaking about, is social media research.
By and large, that's what they're very familiar with. The other thing they're familiar with is, of course, the SurveyMonkey type of research. So these folks are probably the first generation that has had more surveys done on them than anybody else, definitely more than you and I ever had at this time in their life. Not only have they been surveyed and understand what is attempted to be gathered from them, they've actually, as a part of their classwork, even if they're not in business, if they're even in data science, they're putting together surveys using a tool like SurveyMonkey, and they're using it to get information they need. So they believe that SurveyMonkey effect is that our industry is easy. So it's easy, and it's all about social analytics. And the professors say once they find out that's not the case, there's very little interest to learn about all the fundamentals, and certainly about the...
When you say that is not the case, let's be specific. What are the academics then kind of putting their arms around the student and saying, well, young man, young woman, let me tell you what's really involved?
Well, once they get them into a class, it doesn't take long for the student to understand they're going to get the very basics for the stats class that they need to get their business degree, still the biggest thing out there that is being handed out at the end of the course. And then they leave the idea behind of market research forever. And they hope they don't come back to it. That's what the students or the faculty is saying about these students. So It's really the idea that they get enough to get a flavoring of what is involved in our industry. They think it's really wonderful. The top end of the funnel, I guess, if we were looking at it as a business, we have a gap between the top end of the funnel, inherent interest, if you will, being approximately 1 out of 4. And yet when we get through to the actual output, for every marketing degree that's out there, or every 20 marketing degrees that's out there, you might have one that would be focused in market research and one that would be focused in data science. So again, we've got a communication issue, according to what the professors say, and we definitely have even a consumer issue for the students to be able to understand and then really want to go through the work to be actually involved in our industry.
One of the potential lures in our field, and I don't think this was really part at all of what you studied here, is how much money you can make right out of school as a data analyst. It's been, from what I've seen the last couple of years, in and around $60,000 or more. Is this at all part of the students' thinking?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question. And a lot of it has to do with the efforts that the large corporations have been making on the campuses themselves, because they've been in there. There is, as you and I know, Bob, there's such a huge gap between data scientists that are needed and the data scientists that are being pushed out from these universities that most organizations are going overseas. But the point is, the efforts that have been made on our campuses have been focused on, hey, look, you can come out of here and you can make some really good money, even in learning phase. And so that awareness, I think, is there, and I think it does contribute to the interest. This is something they understand they could make a living at, but whether they have the temperament or the toolkit between their ears to actually make it happen, that's a different thing.
John, if you need a question for your next omnibus survey to these students, actually probably to the academics, I'd love you to ask them, so what do we need to do in order to attract more of these students in, honestly, rather than just saying, oh, okay, well, market research, that's sexy, let's go do that.
Okay, we will definitely look at that, Bob.
Okay. John, thank you very much for your time and for doing the work here and for sharing it with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Our thanks to John Burshek. RBDR has been sponsored today and will be this week by Nuance, a decision analyst company offering multi-language verbatim coding services that quantify the meaning of open-ended answers. Coding is an area that has gotten increasingly better in recent years, but it's not necessarily something that every researcher may be all that familiar with, because it's not something that you use every single day. We've got the link to Tips for Choosing a Coding Partner, paper written by the people at Nuance. Take advantage of this free information-filled opportunity. We have a link for you. You'll find it if you're a subscriber in the email we've sent to you. It's also in the description box underneath today's video. Thank you for putting up with me and my voice. I'm still recovering from a virus I picked up in New Orleans. We hope you have a great research day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.